We've really got a lineup this year and a group of stars that's going to take it to the next level.
I'm Terry Quillian, and I'll be in the starting lineup every Saturday morning with my hot take of the week.
I'm the legend from the Paul Feinbaum Show, and I'm in the starting lineup.
I guess I'm Keefer, and I'm part of the starting lineup. Make sure to check out my college picks each week on all of our starting lineup programs.
We are 8 days away from Selection Sunday. Welcome to another edition of the starting lineup. As the SEC goes, so does college basketball. Of course, Alabama now losers of 4 of their last 6. Auburn goes down to A&M. Texas, Oklahoma on the outside looking in. We've got 12 teams in, and now we're just waiting to find out which SEC team wants that last 4-1 seed. We got Auburn in there. We got Duke in there. We got Florida kind of playing around a little bit. Welcome into the big show, guys. How you doing? Kip, what's your thoughts on the SEC? It's been a crazy week.
This is a jungle out there, guys. This
it?
week, who would have thought Auburn, Bama, and Tennessee, top 4 teams, all go down. Well, actually, Alabama was just on the outside looking into the 6. They were 2 just a couple of weeks ago. But all of them lost this week. So it's a tough road, and I am really fired up for the SEC tournament next week in Nashville. The Legend cave under some renovations, some storm damage the other night, so he's joining us here on the set. But, Legend, I know you got to be pumped up. Alabama, from a perspective, what do you expect today when they go to Auburn? I think that they'll have not so much pressure on them as they did in Tuscaloosa, but I think if they play a kind of freewheeling game and play their game, they can pull the upset here.
You know, Alabama last year lost 4 of their last 5 games going into the NCAA tournament, then made a Final Four run. So I'm not so worried about the losses right now. What concerns me about Alabama is they lack fundamentals on simple things such as blocking out people on 3 throws, screening for people out of bounds so you can get the ball in bounds, blocking somebody out, stuff we learn in the 4th grade, in the 5th grade in school. Alabama is losing because they do not have the fundamentals of a great team. If they do the simple things, Alabama can win a national championship. Right now, they are failing at the simple things in basketball.
They've lost 4 of their last 6. And the thing that scares me about this basketball team, and of course, they knock off Kentucky at the beginning of the 6-game stretch. And I'm thinking, okay, they got their mojo back, but now we're finding out Kentucky ain't really Kentucky either. Now they're fighting for their lives to get a 3 seed. But Alabama, in those 4 losses, they're giving up 96 points a ball game. Of course, that throws in with that Missouri game where they gave up 110. They cannot go into the SEC basketball tournament giving up 90-plus points a game. They can't.
Yeah, I mean, you know, defense wins championships, not just in football, but in basketball too. You've got to get stops. And if you're not getting stops, and the way they play, that up and down style, Legend's right. You can't give up second chance stickbacks because people are going to be shooting it from all angles. That's the game they need to play at the offensive end, and they're just not getting it done on the defensive side. And when it gets to tournament time, you know, if you have those kind of cracks in the facade, it comes back to bite you every single time.
Well, just say it like it is, Kip. Alabama is a soft basketball team. Florida big boyed them on Wednesday night. And the same thing will happen today on Saturday down in Auburn. If Alabama don't understand that you got 6'11" guys and 7-footers, they don't only shoot 3s, but they got to block somebody out every now and then, Kip. And Alabama got beat by Florida Wednesday night. Florida scored 45% of their points on second chances, third chances. Tony, that is losing basketball. It's got to be correct.
Well, and Kip, I know you're licking your chops on this Auburn-Alabama basketball game today because I know you love to play teams that have lost previously and play them big because they bounce back and forth. Certainly depends on whether they're playing on the road or at home. But when you talk about the Auburn Tigers and what they did at Coleman, it made Alabama look bad towards the end of that ball game. Now all of a sudden you're talking about an Auburn squad who lost to a team that had lost 4 in a row in A&M. Now they're coming home and they're getting Alabama in one of the last games of the college basketball season. It's not a 1 versus 2, but it's going to be damn close. We'll see what happens if the Auburn Tigers bite back again today.
You know, I'm kind of interested to get your guys' thoughts on the SEC tournament coming up next week in Nashville. All 16 teams go. It's everybody in the league. It's really a unique kind of event. But the conference tournaments, just like in football this year with the championship games, you start, everybody's eyes on the big prize, the NCAA. How important do you guys think conference tournaments are? Of course, they're important from a revenue standpoint, and it's really exciting to have all those teams game after game after game. But, I don't even think the selection committee pays much attention to the conference tournament.
I don't think they do, but I will say this. I mean, you're going to have a 13 and 18 team get in. And that's always fun to see one of those teams win 4 games in 4 days and make the big dance. That's going to happen to somebody. I will say this, though. If we go watch the SEC basketball tournament, you're watching March Madness, baby. I mean, it doesn't get much better from 1 to 16. So this year, I'm really looking forward to the tournament. Normally, I'd say whatever. I know Auburn's going to have a 1 seed. I know Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida. They all 3 of those teams could potentially playing for that last 1 seed in the tournament, in the basketball tournament.
Legend, is there anybody in the SEC ranks below the top 4 or 5? Do you see any team that you've liked this year that you think could possibly make a run in this tournament?
Well, you know what's so interesting about this SEC basketball tournament? On Wednesday night, Missouri got beat. And I think Oklahoma beat Missouri. And what that did was that secured Alabama a top 4 spot, which means they get a double bye. The top 4 teams, Alabama, Florida, Auburn, and I think it's Tennessee, all get a double bye. That means they don't have to play the Friday. That is huge in this new system. Last year, Auburn won it, got knocked out in the first round of the NCAA. Alabama lost in the first round of the SEC tournament and made a run to the Final Four. But as Tony said, this year has a different feel with all these teams. Everybody wants to raise that crown on Sunday this year. I have that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, you still want to hang the banner. There's no doubt. And I think that when we do expand the field, we're talking about expanding it 8 to 10 teams. I think eventually we double the field. Believe it or not, it's still going to be the smallest percentage in any of the major sports that make postseason play. I think we'll start looking like you said. I think that the conference tournaments aren't going to be as well. Listen, you're playing that huge schedule throughout the season, throughout the entire season. That should be enough to tell you who the regular season champion is. The fact that you have a regular season champion and then a conference champion, you get to both hang a banner. It's kind of floozy. But for the most part, the brackets can be made up on Sunday afternoon. In 8 days, the bracket's going to be done pretty much by 5 o'clock while we're still wrapping up some of these tournaments. And that means the tournaments don't really mean a whole lot.
That's my take on it. Welcome to the SEC, Texas and Oklahoma. There's 4 bottom feeders that have to play the first night. Both of them are included in that group. So, and they play each other. That's going to be one of our matchups here when we get to that here in a minute, because both of those teams are kind of on the bubble, especially Oklahoma, who really helped themselves this week with their big win over Missouri. Texas has had some pretty good wins along the way. They went to Mississippi State and got a critical win last week. So, we still are in position to maybe have 13 teams from the SEC and the NCAA tournament. That's just amazing.
Right now we've got 12. Let's get into this monster marquee matchups. Alabama, Auburn, obviously the big one.
Yeah, that's huge. I still say the 2 most talented teams in the country. There's some other teams like Duke, who's a little young. Houston, a little inconsistent, not always a great outside shooting team. There's some really good teams out there. But I think for personnel and how they play, Alabama, Auburn's still the classic matchup. I talked about it last week on the show. I love what Bruce Pearl said after the game in Tuscaloosa. We're going to have to play those guys again in a couple weeks, and then again. And probably again, because they could play them in the SEC tournament. They could play them in the NCAA, maybe even the Final Four in San Antonio. I'm really excited to get this going. But that's definitely the game of the weekend. There's other games, teams on the bubble. I mentioned Texas, Oklahoma. They play in Austin. Just a critical game. If Oklahoma could up and win that game, they might bump Texas out of that last SEC spot. If Texas wins, maybe the Oklahoma beating Missouri was big for them.
I think whoever wins that game ends up getting that last spot.
I think you're right. I think you're right. We've also got pretty big games all across the schedule. The Georgia Bulldogs have come out of nowhere. They were dead in the water 2 weeks ago. They'd lost 4 in a row. Now they've rattled off a win against Florida, which we saw Florida last night. That was impressive. And they did not win a road game all year. They've won back-to-back now at Texas and South Carolina.
And good job by Vanderbilt this season having
the
a good
Dogs
basketball
have
season
Vanderbilt.
as well. Yeah.
And Vanderbilt's been a little wobbly here down the stretch. So I think they're in, but Georgia is about a 70% chance to make their first tournament in 11 years. And that's a big, big game in Athens. So we got a lot of good stuff. Another bubble game, Mississippi State is at Arkansas.
Yeah.
Arkansas right now is in Lenardi's last 4 in. So that's a big game, too, in the SEC. Lots to watch today.
We got a ton going on right here on ABC 3340. Of course, we do this show every single Saturday morning from 10:30, 11 o'clock. We'll be on the Saturday before Selection Sunday. There's no other show you need to watch to make sure you're on top of everything in the SEC. Cases, heaters, coming up on the starting lineup.
Step back into the groove and then into the Birmingham Racecourse Casino.
Check this out. It's all happening here.
The Birmingham Racecourse Casino is the local place to win.
Good times right here.
Let the Birmingham Racecourse Casino bring the good times to you. The Birmingham Racecourse Casino, where the good times roll.
Where you could be a winner too. Yeah, boy.
We've got a brand new website and a brand new podcast called K4 Wins. We'll talk about it in a second. We're hitting 67.5%. We're not going to sit there and say we went 14-0 last night. We don't do guaranteed winners. We just pick great games. What we do, 67.5%. We'll talk about it in a second. I bring that up because Kai Gregory, who runs Southern Precision Staffing for all your staffing needs, he's part of the show. He does fantastic work out there for any staffing needs, contractual, we're talking construction, anything you need. Southern Precision Staffing is the way to go. 205-682-2828. 205-682-2828, where you're worried your handshake still means something. Right here in Hoover, Alabama, serving the United States of America. And, of course, my other friends who come on the show a lot, and every time they do, everyone's whispering around here, Spy 4 Rent. Spy, the number 4 Rent, 790-3051. Everything from bug sweeps, surveillance, divorces, fraud, insurance, you name it. They are the private investigators you need. They're right here in Birmingham, and they're the best. Every judge and every attorney in town knows them. They are Spy for Rent. Spy, the number 4 Rent, 790-3051. Now back to, of course, that wonderful show we have called K4 Wins, my friend.
K4 Wins is on fire.
No thanks to me, by the way. You've been on fire. I think
Tony Curry's Xavier Musketeers came through big time this week.
They did.
They had a big win over Butler, which is good stuff. But we've really had a very solid season. Like Tony said, when you pick almost 70% against the spread, that's insane.
Yeah, it's really
and
good.
we've really had our hand on the pulse on SEC basketball, National Hockey League action. Maybe not a place that you would look, but Legend, if you can make money, you can watch some hockey.
Money in it.
They score! You can score with K4 Wins. Kip Keefer, Tony Curry, Kai Gregory, and Case Keefer out in Las Vegas. Case, a great resource of information. Yeah. He is our guy in the desert.
He is the man. We always take him last because he tells everyone who's wrong because he gets it right. This is the starting lineup.
Let's go! I'm Case Keefer, assistant sports editor of Las Vegas Sun, Las Vegas Weekly, longtime sports bettor and sports betting writer. You're here for another edition of the Vegas Heaters, and as you can see, I'm fired up. Now, that was kind of a pent-up celebration. Probably should have done it a couple weeks ago after the Super Bowl, where I think every single bet we talked about on the show ended up cashing, including the long shots. Jalen Hurts to score the first touchdown, Jalen Hurts MVP. But we've kind of established the success with football in this segment by now giving out so many winners. But it is nice to get on the board in another sport. I think for the first time ever in starting lineup history, we hit a NASCAR outright last week. I gave out Christopher Bell. I think at the time of recording, the best price was 10-1, which I was kind of sheepish on, but still gave it out. I bet 12-1. Well, hopefully you didn't see this till Saturday. I know you didn't see it till Saturday. That's when it aired. He was as high as 16-1 after qualifying in practice. Hopefully you jumped on with me at Circuit of the Americas and cashed on that. Great to see him get into victory lane. The only downside now this week, I know last week I said I was looking to bet him each of the next 2 weeks. Can't do it now at Phoenix. I was hoping maybe he'd be around 6-1, now all the way down to 4-1, and that is a big enough difference to me to where we have to pump the brakes, no pun intended. There's still a lot of really fast cars. This is a track back to the kind of the standard 1.5 mile oval where, a lot of cars are going to have a chance. I just can't quite get to 4-1, even though I do think he is the most likely winner. Probably the driver that's most in contention week in and week out in NASCAR this week. I'm going to be looking more towards the mid-range. I took a couple guys, Joey Logano, 14-1, Tyler Reddick, 16-1. Also kind of looking at Chase Briscoe in there. And Kyle Larson has gone all the way up to 8-1. I mean, you talk about these kind of standard cookie cutter tracks, you'd never see him high on that. So Larson, Briscoe, kind of some guys I'm thinking of, not quite fired on yet. We'll give half credit if one of them come in, but I have bet Joey Logano, who won the championship on this course just a few months ago, last November, and Tyler Reddick. That's for NASCAR. As for golf, a huge golf week for me too. I can't celebrate as much for the show because I did cash Joe Highsmith at at 125 to 1 in the Cognizant Classic. However, I didn't give him out on the show. It's hard. I can't list off my whole card. I bet a ton of guys outright last week, full disclosure. One of the most ever. I think I ended up betting 11 guys. That's pretty uncommon for me. I'm usually in like the 6 to 8 range, but a lot of them were 90 to 1 to higher. I just feel like the market has kind of dropped the ball in adjusting the odds here to this Florida swing we're currently on the PGA Tour. I thought a lot of long shots had some value, so Joe Highsmith gets home for me. But if you bet with me, at least you had a sweat the whole time. The one guy I did give out on here, Russell Henley, in it until the end, ends up, I think, finishing maybe T5, T4, something like that. We locked in a great price on him to win the Players' Championship at 60 to 1, all the way down to 40 to 1 this week. Hopefully you bet it with me to get that good number. I think he's going to be really a guy to be reckoned with, a guy that is going to win eventually. I have a bunch of bets again this week. I've bet like 8 guys again for the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill. Not as many long shots. I actually think our guy that we bet for the Masters, Rory McIlroy, the most likely winner, I like him even a little bit better than Scotty this week. So I'm all in on Rory, but that's not who I wanted to talk about. I wanted to build our Players' Championship card with one more name. Another guy kind of in the mid-range I bet this week. I bet Tommy Fleetwood at 35 to 1. The guy is maddening, all the talent in the world, but never can win on the PGA Tour. I do think that's breaking. He's been so great in these Florida courses, so I think he has a good chance this weekend, but I really love him at the Players, where it's up at 2 major sports books, as we talked about last week. You can get him as high as 31 to 1. Again, we're trying to beat the favorites at the Players. The favorites, this course kind of sets up not all that great for the favorites, so we're looking for like 20 to 1 at the minimum and higher. We got Davis Thompson at 80 to 1 last week, who he didn't make the cut. Not great for him at Cognizant Classic. Russell Henley at 60 to 1. Already told you our price has aged well there, and now we will add Tommy Fleetwood 31 to 1, so 3 bets already for the Players' Championship next week. It's all niche sports this week. As you can tell, this is something I'm passionate about. It's where I make a lot of my money, where I have built my bankroll, and really not that niche for how big some of these sports have become, especially here in Las Vegas. A huge UFC pay-per-view card. I will be at cage side covering out of nowhere. I mean, I've covered this sport for 12, 13 years, and I've never, longer than that, actually 15 years. God, I'm dating myself. But Alex Pereira has just taken the sport by storm, become the biggest star in the UFC faster than I've ever seen anyone do. I actually think it comes to an end in the main event of UFC 313 this weekend. I love Magomed Ankalaev. I can't believe at the time of recording you can still get him at even money. He should not be an underdog in this fight. Anyone that knows what they're doing, I think that's betting large amounts of money, is going to bet on him, so he's not going to be the underdog for long, but I would say he's safe to take all the way up to probably like minus 120. Now, this doesn't mean he's going to win. He could easily get knocked out by Pereira, but if he loses, I think it's going to be because of his own poor game plan. He's talked a little bit about not wrestling, about kind of playing Pereira's game. I think that would be stupid. I think push comes to shove, he doesn't do that. It just seems like we're kind of getting one step ahead of ourselves with Pereira. We're already talking about, the Pereira-Jones big super fight. Everyone just loves this guy. He's kind of captivated the masses. I think this is a terrible matchup for him. I think there's a reason why the UFC has strung Ankalaev along and not tried to bet him. So the big fight tonight, give me Magomed Ankalaev even money. Haven't even mentioned college basketball, only a few seconds left here. That's because it's just hard. I'm really busy. This is my busiest sports betting week of the year. I think I said it last week on the show. 4 major golf tournaments. I'm betting every single college basketball conference tournament. Real passion of mine, real passion of all bettors. None starting Saturday, so I can't give out any futures. Make sure you check out LasVegasSun.com to do that. I'll be looking for long shots and a lot. One league where I will not be looking for a long shot next week, a team I love that's going to be the favorite, VCU in the A10. I think this team is unbelievable. If I'm betting a Final Four right now, I want to get that super big long shot before I see a bracket. So if I had to make a Final Four bet right now, I actually think I'd take VCU 75 to 1. I think the A10 is better than people are giving it credit, and VCU's just been crushing everyone. We saw them get to the Final Four, of course, 15 years ago with Shaka Smart. Maybe they do it again this year with this experienced team that shoots well. That's a touching on 4 sports. Thanks for joining me again on Vegas Heaters.
We were on K4 Wins. We had Case Keefer on, of course, your son. He's the Las Vegas editor for the Las Vegas Sun, does fantastic work. And we put the over-under on SEC teams making the big dance at 12.5. Right now, it looks like it's going to go under because Texas, Oklahoma, at least what I saw just in the last 48 hours.
Whoever loses, probably out.
And, of course, LSU and South Carolina. Those have been bottom feeders all year long. I'd like to think that between Texas and Oklahoma, so I think we're probably going to get 12 or 13 in. But it's amazing, too, and you guys bring up a real interesting point. We got an A&M squad who I can't really put my finger on this year, and all of a sudden they beat Auburn, who had been blowing out teams. They hadn't lost a game in 30 days. 30 days, and next thing you know, they lose 4 in a row, and they're beating Auburn. They're beating the number 1 team the first time they've done that.
How many times have we seen it in our sports lifetimes where because I got into a little bit of a dispute, not a dispute, with one of our partners here who said, I love Auburn large. And I was going, they're going to play a team that's really kind of struggling right now, but a team that's got a chance before their home fans to have the number one team on their court.
Yep.
I mean, that is a massive incentive. I know it's all about numbers and data and trends and all that stuff, but I'm still kind of old school. I've seen it too many times when a team that looks like they're overmatched just rises up and plays these monster games at home.
Well, Legend, let me ask you this now. If the Alabama Crimson Tide doesn't win this game, they will be 2-5 their last 7. They will have lost to Auburn twice in the last 9 days. How important is this game? I know a lot of people are saying they're going to get a 1 or 2 seed regardless, and they are.
They will.
For me, this game means a lot in a lot of different ways to the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Yeah, I think it means a lot, Tony, just for the simple fact it's the Iron Bowl. Hey, this Alabama and Auburn, we playing checkers against Auburn. We want to beat them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, it's very important. But as we've discussed today on the large scale, I could care less if I lose to Auburn if I cut the nets at the end of the madness.
You know what that reminds me of, Tony, when you reported your brother said, well, we don't care about anything but the Michigan game. We don't care about winning the national championship.
We want to beat Auburn regardless.
They changed their tune after they won the national championship.
They certainly did.
Because they're going to brag. They're going to talk about how, they're now the big brother in basketball. They're going to be doing all that trash talking. But they can have the first one. They can have the second one. They can have the third one. Just give me the fourth one. That's
and we know the truth of the matter is you got to win unless you're playing one that's playing games in Dayton. You're going to have to win 6 games. To play 6 games and win by double digits is really difficult depending on your seeding. Sometimes you get matched up with those seeds. Maybe a 15 seed gets through and you get that in the second round. So for the Auburn Tigers to lose this game, I'm not looking a whole lot into it because they've been playing so extremely well. I think a lot of people think from a gambling standpoint, they want you to have that game because they want to put a little more fear into you. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think the Crimson Tide right now, as good as they were just a couple of weeks ago, going to Auburn, if they lose that game and they're 2-5 their last 7 games going, we need to lose those games, so we can flip the switch. They got to find a defense. And I'm telling you right now, when you give up 95 points a ball game in your last 7, you got some major issues. A big part of that, of course, is making your shots. You make your shots, you set your defense up. That way you're not in transition so much.
And you can't give up offensive rebounds. I mean, you can't. You've got to get the rebound when people miss, because Legend said very correctly, last night's game was second chance points for Florida. They really killed Alabama in the paint. You can't have that because it's not like Alabama's undersized, Legend.
Well, the problem with Alabama is they are guard dependent.
Yes.
They are 70 to 80% of their scoring comes from their guards. And when Alabama gets beat, a big man on the other team dominates in the game. And Alabama has not had a big man dominate in a game all season long. Somebody go get 25 and 15. I don't know what's up with Grant Nelson. Jaron Stevens thinks he's 6'2". You're 6'11", dude. 6'11". If I was 6'11", you got to get me off the rim. I'd be flying up there.
Stop standing outside the three-point line.
You got all these 7-footers out here shooting threes now, but they get in the paint and they act soft. They don't touch me.
I think I told you guys before on the show, I went to an NBA game last year with my good friend Alan Johnson from Talk 99.5, and he hadn't been to a game in a long time. He's going, why are all the big guys standing out there on the other side of the three-point line? I said, that's how the game's played now, AJ. That's crazy.
They get in the paint and they're scared to get touched.
Oh, yeah.
That's Alabama's problem. They're soft in the paint, and if a big man on the opponent team dominates, the guard and their point total cannot combine with the guards on the other team as good as Florida's guards is to win the game, and that's Alabama's problem.
One other interesting angle, Tony, I want to get your thoughts on it. I think NIL changes a lot of this equation just like it has in football. Because last year, we had 12 and 14 seeds advancing to the Sweet 16. I think the playing field's a little more level now because teams are, especially in basketball, you don't have to go out and spend tens of millions of dollars because you only need 2 or 3 good pieces in basketball, where football you need a lot more than that. Somebody was telling me the other day, well, it's just such a tough road. There's so many good teams you got to play to get there, but it doesn't always work out that way. Those good teams get knocked off by Maryland, Baltimore County or somebody along the way. It's a lot of it is just kind of the luck of the draw and how it all evolves.
That's what I was saying. I think it's really important because that 1 seed, obviously, you're going to be playing closer to home. And you don't have that 2-15 matchup. We know a 16 can beat a one seed. It's happened twice.
Yeah.
So and I don't know how many times a 15's beat a 2, but something just tells me that something needs to get right for the Alabama Crimson Tide today. I think Nate Oates is going to say, listen, boys, we're going to get things right, and this is the team we need to get it right against. If Auburn ends up going into the SEC basketball tournament with 2 losses in a row, losing the last couple of games, I think they're still fine. They're solidified as the number 1 overall seed. That's how good this basketball team is. But it does maybe just put a little thought in the back of their mind, hey, listen, we can be beat.
Well, let me say this about Auburn. I said it 2 weeks ago. They have a kryptonite, and that is you can get under their skin if you're a rough and rugged team. And what Texas A&M is a rough and rugged team. They're a guard-dependent team, too. Taylor and Phelps has to score for them to win, but they have some dogs inside that will chop you up. And that's the kind of team that can beat Auburn, a St. John or a Clemson, a rugged team that don't mind turning it into a rugby game like A&M did. That's Auburn's kryptonite.
Any other teams, you guys? Let me go with Michigan State right there as a number 2 seed. We got St. John's playing really well, and of course Rick Pitino, his 5th team. He's won a championship, five different teams in the NCAA. Who else we got? Clemson's playing some really good. Houston, and listen, we've been touting Houston for like the last month, and Houston didn't have that 1 seed. It was Auburn, Duke, and then 2 other ACC teams. We're like, look out for Houston. Ralph Sampson's going to have that team as the number 1 seed, and sure enough, they do. They're playing fantastic.
I think there's a sleeper in the Big East too. You mentioned St. John's. I think Marquette is a team that if they put some things together, they're pretty scary too. This tournament is just so fascinating, and it's even more so now. The whole Big 12 the SEC has really outshined them. You're used to it being the ACC, but they really don't have much other than Duke. Clemson, Louisville's a pretty formidable squad.
Well, we're going to find out, too, because you mentioned the Big East. Every year, the Big East, and I watch them a lot because my Xavier Muskies play there. When you play that schedule, you're playing Georgetown, Creighton, Butler, Villanova every single night. That's got to beat you down. You may end up going
even
7 and 8,
Hall
and then all of a sudden you're coming in and you're playing maybe a South Carolina, or you're playing a UAB, or you're playing a team that maybe just won their conference tournament, and all of a sudden you're winning by 20 because you're playing that rough schedule every night. I'm telling you, it roughs you up, man. If you can get out healthy, you're better for it, for sure.
Well, the other fascination is it makes you pay attention where you never think you would ever will. Today, our colleagues were debating a game tonight between Missouri, Kansas City, and the University of Omaha. I said, I'm sorry, I cannot participate in this discussion.
Is there money to be made on that game? Then we're watching.
The UM Kansas City Kangaroos. I hear they're a great bet this weekend in the Summit Conference Tournament.
Hey, K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. It's a free site. Go on there, subscribe. You've written a blog on there, which is fantastic. Talks about SEC and, of course, March Madness. And when we're back here next Saturday from 10:30 to 11 o'clock here at ABC 3340, we're going to be a little over 24 hours away from Selection Sunday. Man.
I love Selection Sunday. It's one of my favorite shows of the whole year.
And really, we got tournaments going on as we speak, so it's fantastic. For the rest of the crew, we want to thank you for watching this morning. Back at you next Saturday here on the Starting Lineup.